Our next section that we're going to cover is on the main contract time, and that is going to be what you actually charge diary entries against. So I can look at this, I can see that it is my main contract time. I've got my indicator here, and I can see that I have an available time as the time type, and this matches up to like your working days type of contract. There's 3 types of different times, and I'll actually cover those as we get into milestones, but just for now, knowing that this is like your working days, I can see that it's active, meaning that I can actually charge time against it, and I can see how much of it is actually completed here. I'm going to go ahead and step into this one by clicking on the 00AT link. And as this is loading here, you can see now that it gives you some additional information. We can see the actual number of bid days that were for this particular contract. We also see here in the header just some useful information. As we're looking at different tabs, you'll always have this subheader information. We can see that it's chargeable, meaning that we can charge diary entries against it. And you can see a detailed listing here of how many days have been charged on diaries and the number on estimates and the percentage completed. An important part of this to look at is what we call, at least here in our section, we call this the MEIO, but really this is just letting you know that the time is either effective or inactive. If the contract time is active, that means that you'll be able to charge against it. If it's inactive, it prevents you from charging against it, but it also allows you to make changes to the particular time. And where that might come into play is if I click here onto the units and dates, and we can see here that the contract main time is set to January 1st. Now in the previous section where I was entering my informational contract time, my actual contractor on site or work date was the 8th of January. So I'd want to be able to come back in here and update this so that it matches to that same start date. And I'll come back to that after going through these other 2 tabs as well. But you can also see here that we have a stop time. This would be the date that the contractor stopped work. And this is what these start time and stop times are, what the system uses to record the working days. So as you're going through it and you don't want to go beyond a certain date, if you put a stop time in here, you won't be able to charge diary entries after that date. This actual completion date field allows you to enter a separate date that the system doesn't use directly. But if you want to have just additional information about when the contractor was on site, in case it's a little bit different than when you needed to actually stop the time for charging days, then you can set that here. On the right side, you can see that we're charging in days. You can see the number of units, the number of days for the contract, and some additional information about the in-process usage here. Finally, down here on the rates and cap amount, this is going to be looking at your liquidated damages and incentives and disincentives. On the left side, you can see the liquidated damages, how it's being charged, and some additional fields here. You can note, you can hover over each of the labels. It'll tell you some additional information about what that particular field is. And then on the right side, you can see if there's incentive, being able to see if there's a cap amount or not. So we do need to go back and change that start date so that it matches to our contract began contractor on site time. And to do that, I just need to change my status to inactive. Go back up to the top and hit save so the system knows that it's actually inactive. Got my save complete. I can ignore the warning message. This is the delete allowed warning message. And there are some warning messages you do want to pay attention to, but this is one that's not needed. Now I'm able to go over here on my start time. I can set it to January 8th and hit save. And there's a definite pro tip for you guys here too. When the contract is first activated, we usually have an estimation that the construction office has put in here. They may have put an initial start time, but of course we know that that changes on a regular basis. When you are actually filling out your diaries for the first time, you'll want to be able to note that you don't have to actually create a time entry on your diary if the if there was work done on the contract prior to this date. So if they were just doing some minor work on the contract on the 5th, just getting the site ready, you don't have to indicate that it was a non-charge day. The system will automatically detect that since it was prior to the 8th, that is a non-charge day, and so you won't have to charge time against that. And we'll be able to mention that again when you actually get to your diaries, and hopefully that'll make the connection for you to be able to see that. Once you are past either on this day or after, if it is a non-charge day, then you will go ahead and enter that non-charge entry on your diary entry. But you'll get an error message that pops up to give you a heads up. So this is giving you just a little bit of information to be aware about it. And if you do have questions, you can always contact our office and be able to help resolve this. But that makes our entry here. You can see I went ahead and saved it. Now I want to go back to my general tab, and because I want to make sure that now that I've made my change, that it is going to be active. And so I can come back, I can look at my effective date. You can see it updated to today's date, and that I have a status of active. I do recommend that we set this back to match to the same date that we have for the start date, just so that it allows us to do entries back to that date. So if I'm all the way in May, but if I was for some reason having to go back and do an entry for my diary, I need to have this set back so that I can also do the entry at that time as well. So I'll go there, set that, and go ahead and save it again.